When people go through a breakup, they often seek immediate relief from the emotional turmoil that follows. And what do? Well, they resort to avoidance tactics. They try to stay busy, burying themselves in work or distractions. Some turn to substance abuse, numbing themselves rather than facing the pain head on. Others engage in outright denial, refusing to acknowledge the loss at all. Now, these strategies, they might seem effective in the short term, but ultimately, they're self-defeating. They prevent you from confronting the very emotions that you need to process in order to heal. And if you don't confront them, well, what happens? They don't disappear. They lurk in the background, festering, waiting to manifest in ways you may not anticipate: resentment, anxiety, or even self-destruction. Now, let's talk about another common mistake: social media obsession. This is an incredibly modern phenomenon. It's something that people in past generations simply didn't have to contend with. You break up with someone, and yet they're still there, always just a few taps away. And so, what do? You scroll, you analyze their posts, you check who they're with, what they're doing. You obsess over their new partner, their new life, one that no longer includes you. And let's be honest here, this isn't some harmless curiosity. It's self-inflicted suffering. It's a way to keep the wound open, to keep feeding the pain rather than moving forward. But why do people do this? Well, because they're afraid of the unknown, afraid of truly letting go. Because once you let go, you're left with yourself. And that, for many people, is a terrifying prospect. And then, of course, there's the rebound relationship. Now, this is a classic avoidance strategy. You get out of a relationship, and rather than taking the time to process what happened, you jump into something new. And why? Because it's easier. Because it gives you a sense of validation, a distraction from the pain. But here's the problem: you haven't actually resolved anything. You're simply covering up the wound, pretending it's not there, when in reality it is. And what happens when you do that? Well, the underlying issues, whether they be emotional wounds, insecurities, or dysfunctional patterns, they carry over. And so, you find yourself in the same situation again, making the same mistakes, repeating the same cycles, because you never took the time to reflect, to learn, to grow. Some people will tell you that staying friends with your ex is the biggest mistake you can make after a breakup. Others will insist that it's jumping into a new relationship too soon. But in my view, the biggest mistake, the fundamental error, is neglecting yourself. It's failing to use this period of difficulty as an opportunity for growth. And why is that a problem? Because life is suffering. That's an inescapable truth. But suffering contains within it the potential for transformation. And a breakup, well, it's one of the most profound catalysts for transformation that a person can experience. It forces you to confront difficult truths about yourself, about your patterns, about your relationships. It's an opportunity to recalibrate, to reassess what you truly want, what you truly value. And if you squander that opportunity, if you simply distract yourself and move on without reflection, then you remain exactly where you were before. A breakup is an invitation to rebuild yourself, to fortify yourself. It's a time to focus on self-improvement, on self-discipline, on self-respect. And that's hard. It's much easier to wallow in despair or to seek out immediate gratification. But easy doesn't mean good. Easy doesn't mean meaningful. If you want to move forward in a real, substantial way, then you need to sit with the discomfort. You need to ask yourself the hard questions. What went wrong? What role did you play in it? How can you ensure that you don't repeat the same mistakes? And most importantly, who do you want to become in the aftermath of this? The way forward is through personal responsibility. You take this pain, this loss, and you turn it into something productive. You become stronger, more competent, more resilient. You build a life that isn't defined by the presence or absence of another person, but rather by the quality of your character. And that's the real goal, not simply to move on, but to move forward. So in summary, the biggest mistake you can make after a breakup is to neglect your own growth, to avoid the hard work of self-reflection and self-improvement. Don't let the pain go to waste. Use it, transform it, become better because of it. That's the only way to truly heal, and the only way to ensure that your future relationships, if you choose to have them, are built on a foundation of strength rather than avoidance. Thanks for watching. If you've got a breakup story to share, leave it in the comments below. And if you're interested in learning more about how to navigate heartbreak in a way that leads to growth, be sure to check out my video on healthy coping mechanisms. Remember, suffering is inevitable, but how you respond to it, that's where your power lies.